Welcome to Deep Dive Stories. Close your eyes and listen. Can you solve the mystery?
And that is just the perfect hook, isn't it? It sets the mood immediately.
It does.
For this deep dive, we're looking at something a little different. It's the blueprint for an instructional audio drama. The source gives us the exact plan for a 5-minute mystery called The Missing File.
Yeah, and I love this. We're getting into the engineering behind how you make learning engaging. This isn't just a story for fun.
No, not at all.
A piece of cognitive design, really. It's built specifically for intermediate English learners, so, around that B1 to B2 level.
Exactly. And our mission here is to figure out how you build that classic noir feel. The rain, the shadows, all of it, while sticking to some really strict rules for teaching.
Right.
We're talking simple language, a slow pace, and very specific story elements that are all there to boost, well, two things: engagement and, of course, language acquisition.
That tone you mentioned seems like the first big hurdle. It has to be suspenseful, like one of those old radio shows, but at the same time, it has to be slow. Every single word has to be super clear. And I just have to wonder, can you really keep that tense noir feeling when your delivery speed is basically set by a B1 vocabulary list?
That is the essential conflict, isn't it? And the source material is very clear. Clarity has to win over speed. That slow, measured pace is the absolute foundation of the whole thing.
So if it's too fast, the lesson fails.
It just collapses.
Yeah.
If the learner can't follow the thread, the whole point is lost. The atmosphere is really just the lure, but the language itself has to be
completely 100% digestible.
It's a fascinating balancing act. You've got this high-stakes thing, a confidential file is stolen to keep the listener hooked, but you also have to make sure they're processing the grammar and the timeline as they go.
And the timeline is everything, because the instructional design is laser-focused on one often really tricky bit of English grammar, narrative tenses.
The past simple and the past continuous. A mystery is the perfect way to teach that, isn't it?
It's the perfect vehicle.
You're always asking what happened, the file vanished, versus what was happening right before it did.
Exactly. If you look at the structure, the plot is really just there to force the grammar. You literally can't tell this story without asking, so what was the witness doing right when the thief entered the room?
And the learner has to make that distinction between a finished action and an ongoing one.
They're forced to.
But doesn't that risk sounding a little repetitive or maybe unnatural? If you lean too hard on the past continuous in just 5 minutes, the danger is that the language lesson becomes too obvious. It pulls you out of the story.
That's a fair point. But the design gets around that by tying the tenses to actual physical evidence. The story is the scaffolding. The learner is so caught up in the drama, Detective Miller's deep voice, the nervous witness, that the grammar becomes a side effect of solving the crime.
So they're not thinking I'm studying tenses.
No, they're thinking I'm building a timeline. And to build a timeline, you need the right tools, which are the tenses.
The whole framework is incredibly tight. 5 minutes, you have to introduce characters, set up the crime, drop clues, fit in 5 specific vocabulary words, and deliver a twist. That's an exercise in efficiency.
It really is. And the characters are chosen specifically for clarity, just 2 of them, to keep any confusion for the learner to a minimum.
Okay, so let's unpack those ingredients. First, our hero,
Detective Miller. He's the narrator, that calm, deep voice walking us through this rainy night in London. He's the anchor.
Right, and then you have the main source of information and, immediate suspicion.
The witness. She's just called an anxious receptionist.
And that anxiety is a clue in itself.
It's structural. It tells the listener right away that she might be unreliable, maybe hiding something. It forces Miller and the listener to look past her story, past her alibi, and focus on the physical evidence.
And the scene itself is pure noir. London, rain, a quiet office building. You can just feel the tension building from the first second.
And the crime just shoots the stakes way up. We're not talking about a missing stapler here. It's the blue folder, a highly confidential file that has just vanished.
Vanished from a locked room.
From a room that was supposedly locked, yes.
That's such a classic trope for a 5-minute lesson. It's so efficient, isn't it? It immediately tells the learner, okay, the suspect isn't out there in the world, they're right here. Someone inside is lying.
It creates instant conflict.
Yeah.
And it lets the script bring in one of our key
Vocabulary words right away. Vanished. The whole story revolves around how this important folder could just vanish from a secure room.
Okay, so the file's gone. We have a locked room.
A nervous witness. Miller starts the interrogation.
He does. And this is where the lesson really gets going. The The source material explicitly labels the witness as suspicious. Miller's dialogue has to use that word to reinforce what it means. She tries to build her alibi.
Which is another one of the key words.
Exactly. Her story about being somewhere else when it happened.
But Miller, knowing it's a locked room, is just going to focus on the facts, on the physical evidence. So what clues are we given? What does the learner have to work with?
We get 3 key pieces of evidence, and they aren't just details. They're designed to force the use of those narrative tenses.
Okay.
First, a wet umbrella. Second, a muddy footprint. And third, and this one's the most important, a broken clock. It stopped at exactly 10.15.
Okay, let's spend a second on these. The umbrella and the footprint, they immediately point outside. Right, someone came in from the rain.
That's the first assumption, yes. They guide the learner to think in past simple. A person entered the building. They left a footprint. Simple, completed actions.
But there's more to it.
Of course. The clues are dual purpose.
Yeah.
They serve the plot, but they also serve the grammar. Miller can now ask things like, when you saw the umbrella, was the water still dripping from it?
Ah, okay.
Or, who was mopping the floor when this muddy print appeared? It forces that contrast between an ongoing action and an interrupting one.
So the listener has to process the duration of an action, and not just that it happened.
Precisely. And then you get to the clock. The broken clock at 10.15. This is, it's the perfect instructional tool. It gives you a fixed point in time, an anchor for everything that was happening before it broke.
So it lets the detective get really specific with the grammar. Can you give an example of how Miller would use that clue to sort of force the past continuous out of the witness?
Sure. So instead of a general, what happened, Miller can
Zoom in and say something like, the clock stopped at 10.15. Tell me exactly what you were doing at 10.15. Were you still typing, or was the guard walking past your desk when the clock broke?
Right, the construction is totally deliberate.
It has to be. It makes the B1 listener not just hear, but actively process this detailed, ongoing scene that was suddenly interrupted.
The plot is demanding the grammar. It's not the textbook demanding it. The learner is so focused on solving the crime that the language structure just comes along for the ride.
And that's all reinforced by those 5 key vocabulary words. We've got suspicious, evidence, alibi, confess, and vanished. And the story's job is to make sure they don't just pop up once.
So how do you scaffold a word like alibi or suspicious? Does the narrator just repeat it?
It has to be dynamic. So the narrator might say, the witness seemed highly suspicious. Then Miller might say, that's a convenient alibi, but the evidence says otherwise. The word gets used in different ways, strengthening the learner's understanding.
Okay, now let's get to the twist. The big structural element that makes it all click. This changes everything we thought we knew from the umbrella and the footprint.
Yes, this is what elevates the whole thing. The twist is designed to challenge the learner's thinking without making the language itself harder. And the twist is, the thief didn't break in.
Wow.
The source is very clear. The thief never left the building.
Wow. Okay, so that completely recontextualizes all the initial evidence.
It does. The locked room is really a locked room. The focus snaps from some outside threat to internal deception. For the learner, this means they can't just think in past simple anymore. The thief took the folder and left. It's more complex.
Because if the thief never left, then any alibi the witness has about being somewhere else is useless. But wait a minute. Why the muddy footprint and the wet umbrella then? Doesn't that risk being too complicated for a B1 learner?
That's the beauty of it. It forces them to think more
Critically about the clues. The umbrella and the footprint aren't evidence of someone coming in. They're probably evidence of misdirection. A trick.
To frame an outsider.
To frame an outsider,
exactly. This shift forces the learner to actively problem solve, and that deepens their retention of the language.
So this twist is what pushes Detective Miller to make the witness confess. He knows the answer isn't out there in the rain, it's right there in the room, in her testimony.
And confess is the final key word. It's the climax. The point where all the pressure, all the contradictory evidence leads to the truth finally coming out.
That's just pure efficiency. A 5-minute masterclass. The noir atmosphere grabs you, the story structure forces the grammar, and the twist makes you reevaluate all the key vocabulary like evidence and alibi.
You could really connect it back to cognitive load theory. By getting the listener to focus on solving a fun mystery, you free up the mental energy they normally use to stress about grammar. They learn the tenses almost subconsciously because the plot needs them.
And the 5-minute length is so smart. It respects the learner's attention span. It's a quick, dense hit of language practice without any wasted time.
It's a perfect loop. The tension keeps them listening, the atmosphere sets the scene, and the clues provide the grammatical context. Every single element is doing double duty.
So you have the quick setup, the 3 key pieces of evidence, the footprint, the umbrella, the clock, and then the big reveal that makes you rethink everything.
And it leaves you with that one last question that every good mystery should. It forces the learner to put all the pieces together themselves.
Absolutely. Based on the evidence we know, the muddy footprint, the white umbrella, the clock stopped precisely at 10:05, and the fact that the thief never left the building, who do you think took the blue file?